Thanks for tuning in to your daily dose of quick real estate updates, local housing trends, and market data, plus tips, tools, and strategies to help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence. You're now getting ready with RealiCare Reports, powered by the innovation team, Cami and Rex. Now go grab your favorite morning beverage, whether that's coffee or tea, and let's enjoy this episode.
Okay, so you're here because you want to stay informed without, wading through endless articles. We get it.
Yeah, cut right to the chase.
Exactly. Today we're doing a deep dive into a pretty significant shift happening down in Florida, specifically with property insurance and Citizens Property Insurance Corporation.
Right. We're looking at an article here from April 23rd, 2025 that lays out some key changes.
So Citizens, just to quickly recap, that's the state's insurer of last resort, right?
That's the one. Basically the safety net if you can't get coverage from a private company. And, well, it got pretty big recently.
It really did. With all the issues in the private market, Citizens ballooned, hitting, 1.4 million policies?
Yep, that was the peak back in 2023. A huge number.
But that's not the story now. The headline from this piece is that the number's dropping significantly.
It is. As of the Friday before this article came out, Citizens' policy count was down to 806,966.
Wow, 806,966. That's quite a drop. The article mentions it's the lowest since early 2022.
That's right. Lowest point in over 3 years. So the big question is, why the change?
What's driving this decrease?
It boils down to this state program they call depopulation.
Depopulation sounds a bit clinical.
Yeah, maybe. But it's essentially the state actively trying to push these policies out of Citizens.
And back towards private insurance companies.
Exactly. Get them back into the regular market. So a very deliberate strategy.
Okay, so who's actually stepping up? Which private companies are taking on these policies?
Well, according to the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation, that's the source here, there were 3 involved in a round of policy takeouts or assumptions around mid-April.
And those were?
Let's see, American Integrity Insurance Company of Florida, Mangrove Property Insurance Company, and Slide Insurance Company.
Right. So those 3 are absorbing some of the policies from Citizens.
Correct. And it seems to be happening pretty fast.
Yeah, the article gives numbers showing a clear trend, doesn't it?
It does. Just the week before this 806,000 number, it was 843,517 policies. And the week before that, it was 841,913. So you can see that steady decline week over week.
Definitely a clear downward push.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the core reason. Why do state leaders want fewer people in Citizens? Isn't it meant to be the backup?
It is, but there's a catch. It's about financial exposure for, well, potentially everyone in Florida.
How so?
Because Citizens is state-backed. If a massive hurricane hits, a really big one, and Citizens can't cover all its claims from its own funds.
Uh-oh.
They might have to levy assessments. And those assessments could hit all Florida homeowners, even people who have private insurance, not just Citizens customers.
Ah, okay. So shrinking Citizens is about limiting that potential statewide financial hit if disaster strikes.
Precisely. It's a risk management thing on a huge scale, reducing the concentration of risk in that one state-backed entity.
Makes sense. And the article put this current number, the 806,000, in historical context, too.
Yeah, it mentioned the last time the count was actually lower than this was way back on February 28th, 2022.
February 2022. So over 3 years ago.
Right. Back then, it was around 792,616 policies. So getting back down near that level shows how much effort is going into this depopulation recently.
It really underscores the scale of this shift they're trying to engineer.
Definitely. It's quite an aggressive move to push policies back to private carriers like American Integrity, Mangrove, and Slide.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap the main takeaway here. We're seeing Citizens' policy count drop quite a bit.
Down to the lowest since early 22.
Driven mainly by this depopulation effort, moving policies to the private market.
Yeah, with companies like American Integrity, Mangrove, and Slide taking them on.
And the big why behind it all is reducing the potential need for those statewide assessments after a major storm. Less risk concentrated in Citizens.
That's the goal. Redistribute the risk, hopefully leading to a more stable private market overall.
So the final thought for you listening is, how does this reshaping of Florida's insurance landscape potentially affect you? Thinking about the cost, the availability of coverage in your area.
Yeah, it's worth considering that balance, the balance between having private companies carry the load and having that state-backed safety net. What does a smaller Citizens ultimately mean for homeowners, especially as risks seem to be getting more complex?
Something to definitely keep an eye on.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of Reality Reports, where real estate meets real life. For more updates, tools, and insights that will help you buy, rent, or invest with confidence, be sure to follow, subscribe, stay connected, stay informed, and stay ready. Until next time.